Bonjour and welcome viewers and students to Let's Speak French, Parlons Français. These lessons on basic French are short and easy, and if you follow the program regularly, I can guarantee you that very soon you will be able to speak and understand French quite easily. The previous class focused on demonstrative adjectives and interrogative adjectives. In today's class, we are going to learn all about possessive adjectives. The lesson has been divided into 3 sections. In the first section, I will explain what a possessive adjective is. More specifically, we'll look at its function and its basic formation pattern. In the second section, we'll look at the other forms of possessive adjectives associated with each subject pronoun. And in the third section, I'll provide a text to revise what we learned in today's class. In this lesson, I will introduce you to words related to the house, such as the various rooms, furniture, and common household articles. Possessive adjectives are small words that are used before a noun in the place of articles. These words indicate who or what is the possessor of the modified noun. Let me explain what I mean by possessor. A possessor is somebody or something who is in possession of an object. For instance, if I say, "This is my house," the word "my" is a possessive adjective that implies that I am the possessor of the house and that the house belongs to me. Possessive adjectives therefore function as an indicator of ownership. Having explained the function of possessive adjectives, let me next show you how possessive adjectives are used in a sentence. In English, there are 7 possessive adjectives, each associated with a subject pronoun: my, your, his, her, its, our, and their. These 7 possessive adjectives always agree with the possessor. I'll illustrate this point with examples. When talking about my brother's house, I refer to the house as his house because the one who is in possession of the house is my brother. Similarly, when I talk about my sister's house, I refer to the house as her house because the owner of the house is sister. Strictly speaking, the concept of gender does not exist in English, but all humans have a gender, while all animate objects, including inanimate ones, are referred to as it. So, to review, the possessive adjective in the English language always agrees with the possessor who is in possession of the modified noun. In French, the possessive adjectives are used differently. The function of the adjective is the same. French possessive adjectives indicate ownership as well. But the way these adjectives are used is typically French. By now you are familiar with adjective agreements. You know that adjectives always agree in number and gender with the noun they modify. So the same logic is used with possessive adjectives also. In French, almost all possessive adjectives have 3 inflected forms: masculine singular, feminine singular, plural, masculine and feminine. Let me illustrate each inflected form with an example. To simplify things, we'll consider only the possessive adjective my that is associated with the singular form of the first person. Let's begin with the masculine singular form. My garden is in front of the house. The French equivalence of this sentence is Mon jardin est devant la maison. In French, jardin is a masculine singular noun. So the possessive adjective that precedes it must agree with its gender and number. More is the masculine singular form of the possessive adjective associated with the singular form of the first person. Now let's examine the feminine singular form. My kitchen is on the ground floor. The French equivalence of this sentence is Ma cuisine est au rez-de-chaussée. Cuisine is a feminine singular word, so the possessive adjective that precedes it must reflect the gender and number of the noun. Ma is the feminine singular form of the possessive adjective associated with the singular form of the first person. Now let's examine the plural form. Please note that in French there is only one plural form of possessive adjectives. No distinction is made between a masculine plural word and a feminine plural word. My windows have curtains. The French equivalence of this sentence is Mes fenêtres ont des rideaux. Fenêtre is a plural word, so the possessive adjective that precedes it must match with its number. The gender of the noun is not important in this case. Mais is the only plural form of the possessive adjective associated with the singular form of the first person. To review, the word my can be translated either as mon, ma or mes in French. It is the gender and number of the noun that follows immediately after the possessive adjective that determines which inflected form is to be used. This table allows you to understand the three inflected forms of possessive adjectives. Next, let me introduce you to other possessive adjectives. In French, there are 8 personal pronouns. Each of these pronouns has their respective possessive adjectives and their inflected forms. In the first section, I already presented the possessive adjective that corresponds to the first person singular, je. We learnt that there are 3 inflected forms: masculine singular, mon, feminine singular, ma, and one plural form, mes, which precedes both masculine and feminine plural nouns. The possessive adjective associated with the next 3 personal pronouns, that is, tu, il, and elle, follow the same pattern. So let's first look at these. The following table summarizes the different inflected forms of the possessive adjectives that correspond to tu, il, and elle. Tu, which is informal you, ton, ta, te. Il, son, sa, se. And elle, son, sa, se. As you may have noticed, the possessive adjectives that conform with il and elle are identical. Also, there is hardly much difference between the 3 possessive adjectives. The letter T replaces M for the singular form of the second person. Mon, ma, mes becomes ton, ta, te. Similarly, the letter S replaces the M for the singular form of the third and fourth person. Mon, ma, mes becomes son, sa, se. Before I illustrate these with examples, let me point out one important thing regarding son, sa, and se. In English, we make a distinction between his and her. This difference does not exist in French. It is the context that indicates whether the modified noun belongs to a male or a female. Also, since the English subject pronoun it does not exist in French, son, sa, and se can imply either that an animate object like humans and animals or an inanimate object is the possessor of the modified noun. Let me start by illustrating the three inflected forms associated with the singular form of the third person, sont, ça and c'est. I'll begin with the French possessive adjective sont. Let's consider the following sentence. Son salon a un tapis persan. The English equivalence of this sentence is her sitting room has a Persian carpet. In English, it's very clear that the sitting room belongs to a female because of the possessive adjective her. In French, such an indication is not available. So in this sentence, son salon can mean his sitting room, her sitting room or its sitting room. It is the context that will indicate to whom the sitting room belongs. The reason why son is used before salon is that in French, sitting room is a masculine word. So the possessive adjective that modifies it must naturally agree in gender and number with it. Even if the possessor is a female, the possessive adjective does not change from son to ça. In French, possessive adjectives match with the noun, not with the possessor. Next, let's look at a sentence with ça. Angelo a un lit supplémentaire dans sa chambre. This sentence is translated as Angelo has an extra bed in his bedroom in English. The possessor is Angelo. The modified noun is chambre and it belongs to Angelo. Although Angelo is a male, the possessive adjective is feminine, ça. This is because the possessive adjective modifies the noun chambre, which is a feminine noun. Even if we replace Angelo with Elodie, which is a common female name in French, the possessive adjective would remain unchanged. Elodie a un lit supplémentaire dans sa chambre. Now let me show you a sentence which, when translated into English, uses the possessive adjective its. Let's consider this sentence. J'aime cet immeuble à cause de son large balcon. This sentence translates as I like this building because of its large balcony. Since all inanimate objects are neutral in English, one uses the possessive adjective its to indicate that the balcony belongs to the building. In French, firstly, all nouns have a gender, even inanimate objects like building and balcony. And secondly, all possessive adjectives agree with the gender and the number of the noun they modify. So one inserts the possessive adjective son before balcon because in French, balcony is a masculine word. Now I'll show you how to use c'est. Chaque semaine, Madame Vincent nettoie ses étagères. The English translation of this sentence is every week, Mrs. Vincent cleans her shelves. Étagère is a plural noun and hence the possessive adjective that precedes it must also be plural. Possessive adjectives in French have only one plural form. So irrespective of the gender of the modified noun, this plural form always precedes the plural noun. Madame Vincent can be replaced with Monsieur Vincent and it would not alter the possessive adjective. Chaque semaine, Monsieur Vincent nettoie ses étagères. Similarly, c'est can also be translated as its. For example, cette salle est belle avec ses murs blancs. This sentence translates as this room looks beautiful with its white walls. Now I'll show you how to use the three inflected forms of the possessive adjective that corresponds to the second person singular, tu. Since the rule is the same for these possessive adjectives, I will simply modify the above sentences to demonstrate the usage. Ton salon a un tapis persan. Your sitting room has a Persian carpet. Tu as un lit supplémentaire dans ta chambre. You have an extra bed in your bedroom. Chaque semaine, tu nettoies tes étagères. Every week, you clean your shelves. Now let us examine the next 4 personal pronouns: nous, vous, il, and elle. Unlike the previous set of possessive adjectives, the possessive adjectives that correspond to nous, vous, il, and elle have only 2 inflected forms, a singular form and a plural form. The gender of the modified noun does not affect the possessive adjective. It is only the number that needs to match the possessive adjective. Here's a table that summarizes the next 4 possessive adjectives and their inflected forms. Again, as you may have noticed, the possessive adjectives that conform with il and elle are identical. Also, there is hardly much difference between the possessive adjectives corresponding to nous and vous. The letter V replaces N for the plural form of the second person. Notre and nos become votre and vos. And finally, the possessive adjective associated with the third and fourth person plural is completely different from the rest. Let me clarify this with examples. Les vieux matelas sont dans notre grenier. The old mattresses are in our attic. In this sentence, it is not important to know the gender of the noun that follows the possessive adjective notre. If we replace attic by attics, then the sentence would be Les vieux matelas sont dans nos greniers. The old mattresses are in our attics. The same rule applies for votre and vos. Votre salle de bain est au cours de réparation. Your bathroom is under repair. If we say vos salles de bain sont au cours de réparation, it would mean your bathrooms are under repair. And finally, let me make a sentence with leur and leur. Leur voiture est dans le garage. The English translation of this sentence is their car is in the garage. Again, if we replace leur by leur, the sentence would be leurs voitures sont dans le garage. And in English, the translation would be their cars are in the garage. Before we proceed to the text that reviews what we learned today, let me quickly run through the rules once again. In French, possessive adjectives always match in gender and number with the noun they modify. When unsure which noun is modified, simply remember that in French, the modified noun always follows the possessive adjective either directly after it, as in Le fauteuil est près de mon armoire, which means the armchair is near my cupboard, or after a qualifying adjective such as Le fauteuil est près de ma petite armoire, which means the armchair is near my small cupboard. The possessive adjectives that correspond to the first 4 persons of the singular form, that is je, tu, il, and elle, have 3 inflected forms: masculine singular, feminine singular, and 1 plural form. But the next 4 personal pronouns, that is nous, vous, il, and elle, have only 2 inflected forms, a singular form and a plural form. Now let us revise what we learned in today's lesson on possessive adjectives. Here's a short text which I am going to slowly read out and comment on so that you can understand how possessive adjectives are used. Monsieur et Madame Leblanc mènent une vie tranquille dans leur petite maison à la campagne. En été, ils invitent leurs petits-enfants. Antoine, qui a 13 ans, aime passer la journée dans le jardin avec son grand-père. Ses 2 petites sœurs préfèrent jouer avec leur grand-mère. Parfois, Monsieur Leblanc sort sa voiture pour emmener tout le monde à la plage. In this text, you can observe a possessive adjective in every sentence. Leur petite maison, leurs petits enfants, son grand-père, ses deux petites sœurs, leur grand-mère, and sa voiture. Each time the demonstrative adjective precedes the modified noun. Sometimes the noun is placed directly after the possessive adjective, as in leurs petits enfants, son grand-père, leur grand-mère, and sa voiture. And sometimes an adjective is placed between the possessive adjective and the noun, as in leur petite maison and ses deux petites sœurs. Each time, however, the possessive adjective agrees with the gender and number of the modified noun. The possessive adjectives in the text correspond to the singular and plural form of the third person, il, elle, and il, elle. Son grand-père, sa voiture, and ses deux petites sœurs are examples of possessive adjectives that correspond to the singular form of the third person. Leur petite maison, leurs petits enfants, and leur grand-mère are examples of possessive adjectives that correspond to the plural form of the third person. With this, we come to the end of our fifth lesson. Before we wrap up, let me summarize in a few words what we learned today. Like all adjectives, possessive adjectives agree in number and gender with the noun they qualify. But unlike qualifying adjectives, possessive adjectives can only be placed before a noun and never after it. In English, there are only 7 possessive adjectives which correspond to the 7 subject pronouns. But in French, there are many more possessive adjectives because each subject pronoun has 2 or 3 corresponding possessive adjectives. Technically speaking, each subject pronoun has only one possessive adjective which has 1 or 2 inflected forms. This lesson was divided into 3 parts. In the first part, we learnt about the function and formation pattern of possessive adjectives. In the second part, we learnt about the different possessive adjectives that correspond to each subject pronoun. And finally, in the third part, we revised today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed today's session. With this, we come to the end of our chapter 2. In the next class, we'll begin the third chapter. In the first lesson of our third chapter, we'll learn how to conjugate in the present tense verbs with ER ending. I hope to see you in the next class. Thank you. À bientôt. See you soon.